A couple is on the run from Spain due to an oppressive military rule and a shortage of necessities. Mia and Nico enter a shipping container on a truck to get illegally transported to Ireland, a country that is safer. The couple meets a group of other refugees in the container who are also on the run. While Nico appears optimistic about things getting better, Mia is scared for their lives and the safety of their unborn child. Mia proceeds to express her worries to Nico about how the baby has failed to kick in 2 days, and she is concerned because she has not been feeling the baby. However, Nico tries to stay optimistic while reassuring his wife. It is gradually revealed that the couple had previously lost their firstborn daughter, Uma, who was taken away by the military and is presumed dead. Since then, Mia has always blamed herself for Uma's disappearance. A few minutes later, the truck stops and more refugees force themselves inside the container. Upon becoming too many, they are divided into 2 groups, and some are led into another container. Amidst the chaos, Nico is forced out of the container into a different one, leaving his pregnant wife Mia. As Mia takes a quick peek outside through a hole, she witnesses oppressive soldiers locking all pregnant women and kids away in a cage and exterminating them as a way of dealing with a shortage of necessities. She quietly breaks down out of despair before the truck suddenly stops again, this time in a military checkpoint. The driver attempts to negotiate with the soldiers, hiding the fact that he is illegally transporting some citizens out of the country. Eventually, the soldiers decide to open the truck, which appears empty. One of the soldiers proceeds to open the container but is unsatisfied. Upon spotting a small hidden cubicle in the container where the helpless refugees appear to be hiding, a baby softly cries among them, confirming the soldier's doubt. Mia quietly climbs up on a wooden crate as the cunning soldier deceitfully persuades them to surrender. She attempts to pull up a pregnant woman but fails to succeed when the military brutally shoots down every single one of them and proceeds to drag out their bodies, leaving Mia behind in the container. Mia is increasingly terrified and proceeds to leave Nico a voice note, warning him of the incoming danger at the military checkpoint. Upon reaching the port, all containers, including Mia's, are transferred onto a ship, which then leaves the port. Meanwhile, Mia attempts to phone Nico but fails to reach him. Later in the night, Mia is woken by a massive storm. Horrified, she peeks through a bullet hole and witnesses other containers falling into the ocean. Mia desperately calls out for help but in vain while being violently tossed back and forth. Amidst the chaos, Mia falls unconscious and later wakes up to a container flooded with water. Upon peeking outside, it is then that she realizes she is floating in the middle of open waters. Distressed, Mia resolves to phoning Nico, but her phone screen is severely shattered. Luckily, she finds a flip phone in the container, which belonged to the refugees who were shot earlier on. But it's of no use, as she requires a pin to unlock it. She goes around looking for items to block the holes in the container to stop the container from filling with water. While looking around inside the wooden crates, Mia manages to find some household containers, packaged hoodies, packaged flat-screen TVs, packaged earphones, a penknife, and bottled vodka, along with some tape, which she uses to cover the bullet holes. Mia suddenly hears screaming outside. She looks through a bullet hole and spots another container packed with people and slowly sinking underwater. From the label on the container, Mia recalls that container being the same one that Nico was transferred to earlier. Intensely panicking, she phones Nico using the flip phone, but the cell phone goes unanswered. Mia helplessly watches as the container is completely submerged in water. Later that night, Mia appears to have completely lost all hope when she fails to reach Nico after phoning him multiple times. Mia eventually resolves to take her own life until her unborn baby suddenly kicks, restoring her will to live. The next day, Mia decides to defy all odds and go beyond her limits to save her life and that of her unborn baby. She begins drawing out the water from the container using the items around her. She then attempts to call an emergency telephone number for help but fails to succeed due to a lack of signal. Mia manages to find a drill, bottled water, small canned tuna, including a lighter and a torch, which were belongings of those refugees killed at the military checkpoint. She then receives a call from Nico, who informs her that he could not call earlier because his battery ran out. He adds that their truck driver abandoned them outside the city limits, and he could not make it to the port. Mia explains her situation, and Nico reassures her, encouraging Mia to hold on until he calls her back when he figures out a plan to come rescue her. A couple of minutes later, Mia begins experiencing labor pains. Things take a turn for the worse when a storm begins and Mia goes into labor in the container, something she dreaded from the very beginning. Mia eventually gives birth to a baby girl, and for a moment she thinks she has lost her, until the baby starts crying. Now 3 days in the container with a newborn baby, Mia becomes determined to fight for their chances of survival. However, the baby is continuously crying due to a lack of breast milk, which Mia is initially unable to provide, as she is not getting enough food to produce any milk. After some time, Mia is finally able to produce some milk and feeds her baby, who she names Noah. Mia eventually runs out of water and food when she consumes the last bit of canned tuna she had stored for herself. She grows severely weak from nursing a newborn and with no food or water supply, along with a lack of sunlight exposure. In a desperate attempt to survive, Mia retrieves the placenta she stored in a household container after giving birth and sniffs it before taking a big bite out of it. 6 days pass with Mia in the container, and she starts experiencing hallucinations of Nico and her firstborn daughter, Uma. Meanwhile, she relies on rainwater dripping through the holes on the roof of the container for drinking to stay alive. After multiple attempts to drill an opening on the roof of the container, Mia struggles, but eventually manages to cut a portion of the container to allow some sunlight in. She takes baby Noah to the top of the container, and both begin to gradually recover due to exposure to sunlight and fresh air. Mia notices a low-flying airplane above them. She attempts to signal it by reflecting the sun from a piece of mirror, but she eventually fails. In the process, Mia accidentally scrapes her thigh against the metal on the container, leaving her with a deep and painful injury that is continuously bleeding. She treats the open injury by pouring some vodka onto it and manages to stitch the cut. Determined to survive for her daughter's sake, Mia devises a way to catch fish and begins surviving on raw fish while drawing water out of the container to prevent it from sinking. 9 days lost in the open waters, Mia begins writing messages on paper asking for help, and then packs each paper into the household containers, which she then throws out to the ocean, hoping someone will eventually be alerted. One night, Mia is quietly seated with baby Noah. She starts recounting about her firstborn daughter, Uma. It is revealed that when the oppressive military rule took over, it was on the hunt to exterminate kids, and both Mia and Nico had no other choice other than to keep Uma locked up inside the house for days to protect her from the military. Nico would go out to get food, leaving his wife and daughter inside the house. One day, Uma requested Mia to take her out to play for a short while, and Mia just couldn't say no to her daughter. As soon as Mia took her out, the military spotted them and took the little girl into custody. Ever since that day, Mia carries the guilt of her daughter's disappearance with her. Later that night, Noah falls ill with a fever, but Mia manages to start a fire with only a cloth and alcohol, keeping the baby warm. Days and nights pass and Mia makes it to the 12th day out in the open waters. She receives a call from Nico, and he explains that he made it to the port and snuck onto the ship, but the military soldiers found him and shot him. Moreover, he is losing a lot of blood. Heavily breathing, Nico tells Mia that he will not be able to make it out of there alive, hence Mia will have to make it out on her own. Mia is extremely heartbroken, and she informs Nico that their daughter has finally been born. Nico is really delighted upon hearing the good news. However, with his dying breaths, he says his last words, and they both say their goodbyes to each other. Mia is left devastated as she grieves the loss of her partner. 26 days pass and the water becomes too much for Mia to draw it out from the container. Hence, she and Noah move to live on the top of the container. She even builds a small raft for Noah to sleep in, using the household containers and wood, along with other materials in the container. Mia's hope is slightly restored when she notices seagulls approaching her container due to the fish remains indicating that they must be close to the land. That night, disaster inevitably strikes when the container starts slowly sinking. Mia rushes to get a picture of Uma down the container, but gets stuck underwater when she tries to climb up. She struggles to flee herself and succeeds, but the container has already submerged in water, and Noah's small raft has drifted away and out of Mia's sight. Mia starts desperately calling out, searching for her baby. Luckily, she manages to hear Noah crying and locates her. She swims over to Noah and survives by holding onto the side of the raft for the entire night. Soon, Mia runs out of strength and is close to giving up on her survival quest. She thanks Noah for being with her and admits her daughter's presence gave her courage and saved her. Severely weak, Mia remarks that she did everything she could. She spots a seagull hovering around and then empties the fish remains from the household containers and throws them out to the ocean. A few minutes later, a flock of birds are hovering just above them, which draws the attention of an Irish family out for fishing. The family gets closer and spots a baby all alone in a floating raft, bringing her up onto the boat. They then notice a string tied to the raft and proceed to pull. It turns out Mia tied her hand to her baby's raft, and she appears to have surrendered to her fate. The determined fishermen bring her on board and begin performing CPR on her. Eventually, Mia is revived, and they both survive with Noah. She spots a little boy on the boat smiling at her, indicating that she has reached Ireland, where children safely exist. Initially, Mia cannot believe that she and her daughter have finally escaped their terrible ordeal. The film ends as Mia sheds tears of joy. That's all for today's recap. Kindly subscribe to support our channel. Thanks for watching.